Hi everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back bright and early on a Friday morning to check out the summoning events that are happening over the weekend. So they're actually already live in the game. Obviously, once again, all the best wishes coming here from Ireland over to everyone in the Ukraine. But obviously, with all the real life stuff, all the war that's going on right now, they weren't able to post the news post for what was coming up. So we haven't seen it until it's live in the game. So there are a bunch of champions boosted in a 10x event. And then there's also Thoresque over here. So here you go. I'm going to talk about all of these champions as well individually and that you know what I think of them. But let's talk about Thoresque first. So she is a guaranteed champion if you pull 40 sacred shards. Can we get on her from here by clicking her portrait? We can. Let's actually look at her in the index so we can see her stats when she's fully leveled up. I don't think she's worth it, guys. I would not be pulling for Thoresque. So, I mean, she looks freaking cool. She looks badass. She's got the crazy face. She looks amazing. The thing about Thoresque is that she's the only champion in the game currently that has this debuff. Hates flowers, attacks all enemies, 50% chance that goes up to a 75% chance, 80 with sniper mastery, of placing a 50% decreased resistance debuff for 2 turns. Now, is this debuff good? Yeah, this is a really good debuff, but not on a champion like Thoresque, at least in my opinion. Now, I could be wrong, but this is what I think is her problem. Her problem is that she is a damage dealer. She's got really low defense. She's very squishy, and her speed is actually low. She's got no bonus accuracy either right here. She is a nuker, right? She has an AoE attack that hits pretty hard, has a triple hitter that, again, hits pretty hard, and then a double hitter that can hit pretty hard, and she does some buff manipulation, right? Can remove buffs from the target. That's a decent move. She can increase random debuffs by 1 turn. That's also a pretty decent move. But here's the thing. How do you get her to actually use this decreased resistance? It's like the Astrolon problem, okay? If you make her fast, like really fast, faster than your debuffers, right? So the people that will need to get through the opponent's resistance, you make her faster than the debuffers, and you make her super accurate so she can actually land this debuff on a really high resistance enemy. If you do that, she's just simply not going to do much damage. It's just not possible. I think you maybe could build her like that, again, maybe in combination with something like an Astrolon, and then you could build Astrolon more for damage. So there is some utility there, but I think it's going to be hard based off her base stats. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very skeptical about her. I think that maybe if you've got plenty of shards, if you are a spender, I would probably grab her anyway, just on the off chance that some cool strategy comes up around this. But for me, for the regular player, for a low spender player, for a free-to-play player, I just don't see this as being a good investment. Now, in comparison, Geomancer was the other previous guaranteed 40 shards for a champion, and I thought that he was much, much better than her. So yeah, I wouldn't be pulling for her. Right, let's take a look at these champions then. So first up, we have Sandlashed Survivor. Sandlashed Survivor, one of the 10 times first 10 times champ boosted in this event. I think Sandlash is a really solid champion. Obviously, the theme of this event is going to be ally protection. So she has a very unique and very cool passive. Puts ally protection on all allies for 2 turns when anyone's health drops below 50%, and also puts block damage on her for 1 turn, which means that other ally protection champions typically need quite a lot of HP in order to survive the damage that's coming in at them. And they also can't build for damage, right? Because if they build crit damage, it ups the damage they take from ally protection. Because she puts block damage on herself and blocks at least 1 round of this ally protection damage coming back at her, you can build her with lower HP, you can build her with some crit damage, and she can get away with it, which is pretty cool. She does hit hard. Her A1 hits 2 times, hits pretty hard. Can put provoke if she's got no debuffs, heals by damage inflicted if she is under any debuff. So this is again quite a useful passive. The provoke effect is actually quite a decent champion to bring in against the magma dragon, right? She's got a 50% chance when booked up to provoke the magma dragon every time she hits him. It's not too bad. The healing is actually quite substantial as well, so that's a useful thing against the Hydra, for example. She will heal. And then her A2 I think is great. AoE attack hits pretty hard. Decreases duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, increases ally buffs by 1 turn. So she's doing your buff extending, your buff manipulation. Now, I think when it comes to later game stuff, so Hydra in particular, where that's really, really good, and I think any possible future bosses they introduce, this sort of thing might be really, really good as well. I don't think she's as good, obviously, as like Sandlash. She is Sandlash. Not as good as Demitha, not as good as Godseeker and Neri, and obviously not as good as Krisk, who's also boosted in this event, by the way. So she's not as good as those, but it is still a good skill to bring in. She does have a defense aura in all battles, 25%, which is really good. So she's a very good champion against the traditional clan boss. If you're going for a non-unkillable team, she's extremely good. She could even go into a super budget, super tanky team. So, you know, which is an end game team. So she can do that. She's very strong at that stuff. She does good damage, defense based. I think she's a solid champion. I don't know if I'd be rushing out to pull her, but if you got her and you don't have her, you'd be very happy. She's a great champion. Kunoichi is up next. So she's one of the newest champions added to the game, part of the Shadowkin faction. And again, she has this ally protection theme. So her A1 books up to a 40% chance to place weaken. That's fine. Defense-based damage as well, much like Sandlash, which is really nice for progression. Her A2 is an AoE attack with a 4-turn cooldown, which has a 100% chance of putting Leech for 2 turns. So it's a long cooldown, but I think this is a pretty decent ability, right? It's a good thing against the Hydra. Bringing AoE Leech is actually quite good. It's good for their faction wars. Getting a Leech out is also quite good, so I don't mind it. Then this is her big move with her passive in conjunction with each other. Interpose, 6 turns, books down to 3 turns, puts ally protection on all allies except this champion for 2 turns, and fills her turn meter by 50%. So pretty good. You know, that's a short cooldown. She's got very high uptime on ally protection. With that turn meter boost, she's getting back around to putting it on again. So very good champion for good uptime on this. And then here we go. Blooded Grit does have a 5-turn cooldown, but puts block damage on this champion for 1 turn whenever their HP drops below 50%. So especially in wave-based content in Doom Tower, against certain Doom Tower bosses, against faction war bosses, or faction wars in general. I think this is great. She's really good at keeping your team alive, right? You're going to be putting ally protection up constantly. It's going to be rolling all the time. And then she keeps herself alive when that ally protection reflect damage comes in and it starts nuking her down. She can protect herself. Against the Hydra, I think she's still really good with the Leech, you know, chance to place a weaken, ally protection. She's still a good champion. Obviously, she's not going to have full uptime on Blooded Grit. Probably good because you don't want block damage stolen by Head of Mischief. But she'll probably need a reviver or something with her there because she's not going to be tanky enough to survive. But I think, again, she's a really nice champion. Then we have the weakest of the epics, I'd say by a significant chunk. It's Broodlord, who looks super cool. Like, this guy looks so cool. I just love, he's a wide boy. He is a wide boy, and I love his mane of spikes. Like, he looks awesome. But unfortunately, I think he's not that strong, really. So his A1, chance to provoke if they're under decreased speed. Not great. He's got ally protection on a single ally, and then block debuffs on that ally for 1 turn. He also puts a shield on himself for 2 turns. So this is a 3-turn cooldown, and it's ally protection on 1 single ally, and block debuffs on 1 single ally. Now, the shield on him is fine. It's nice, but it's just not that good of a move. It's not that good. I think the main use for this would be in Demon Lord clan boss. You could use this on someone that could be a stun target. But I also suspect it probably makes it difficult for the stun targeting to actually work, because ally protection block debuffs should probably make the clan boss AI not want to target that person. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this because I run a man-eater unkillable team, so I've never really had to think about that stuff for over a year. But someone that's more expert on Demon Lord could let us know. I don't think it's great. Primal Tremors, though, 3-turn cooldown when it's booked up, AoE attack, 50% chance when booked to stun for a turn. Increased to 75%, that goes up to 85% against enemies under decreased speed. And then whenever he is attacked, whenever allies under ally protection are attacked, chance goes up to 45%, chance at say 50% with sniper of placing decreased speed on the attacker for 2 turns. And he has a defense in all battles 25%. So yeah, I just don't think he's that good. I don't think he's that good. The idea is that, yeah, you're going to have some chances to place decreased speed, and then you could land your stun, then you could land your provoke. It feels like you'd have to really be wading very slowly through a bunch of wave content for this to actually work. I just don't see him being that useful. I'm going to be honest. I think he's pretty poor. I probably wouldn't bother building him. Like, he's okay for faction wars, but there's much better Lizardman epics that I would invest in probably before this guy. I'm just not seeing it. And like, the provoke is useless against bosses. like that's kind of a thing. Decreased speed, provoke, stuns. None of these things work against the clan bosses. So, well, decreased speed works against Hydra. That's not terrible, but no, I don't think so. Then for the epic from Void Charts, we have Andrisya. This is a champion I think is really good. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go show her in the index. I know I haven't done it with those other guys. They've been in the game for a while, but Andrisya is brand new. So just to give you an idea for what her stats are. So her stats are really good. But yeah, so I think this champion is actually really good. So her A1 can place decreased crit damage. That's a completely useless buff for the most part. So no. Her A2 I think is nice for the arena. Has a 100% chance to stun for a turn if the target does not have any active buffs. Has a 100% chance to stun for 2 turns if they do have active buffs. So this is what I think is pretty cool. A guaranteed 1 turn stun on a single target, or 2 turns if they have any active buffs. That's a really nice move. That's a really an arena type move. Where if you build her with enough accuracy and she does have some baseline, she could come in and potentially stun the nuker or reviver for 2 turns after they've buffed up. So I think that's actually nice. Now her A3 is more of the selling point. 3 turn cooldown AoE attack with a 100% chance to reduce the duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. Almost every enemy in the game is going to have at most a 2 turn buff. It's very unusual to run into 3 turn buffs or more. That's very rare. In PvE against the Hydra, against Waves and Doom Tower, all of that in the arena. This is effectively an AoE attack that's a full buff strip on the enemy team, which is really good. She's void affinity, so no weak hits. It always works. It also increases the duration of all increased defense buffs on all allies by 1 turn. So that's a nice little perk. That's a very good thing, especially for the Hydra, I would say. Then Heartstrong, her passive is what's really fun. 5 turn cooldown. At the start of each turn, puts ally protection. So I guess it's not at the start of each turn. I guess it's at the start of the turn on a 5 turn cooldown. Puts ally protection for 2 turns on the ally with the lowest max HP. Will not be placed on this champion. Also puts strength and increased defense on her for 2 turns. So she's like a very, very, very weak version of Nekret the Great. I think this is a good move, right? So is this, you're going to protect your squishiest person in the arena. In the arena, basically you make her go fast. She comes in, she buff strips the enemy team, and she's going to be increasing her own defense buff. She's going to have increased defense and strengthen on herself. So that's going to boost up her damage. It's going to make her very tanky. And then she's going to put ally protection on your nuker to help them stay alive if they do get attacked. So I think she's a really good, solid champion. I think this is also going to be great for Hydra. It's going to be great for going through dungeons and waves and fighting bosses as well. Just getting that extra ally protection out on your most vulnerable member. She can easily take the damage with these buffs. The buff strip is good. Yeah, I think she's a really solid champion. I probably wouldn't rush out to pull her, but I think she's great. I think she's good, solid champion. But yeah, I wouldn't pull for her in this event. Now, next up we have the Legendary. So this is obviously where stuff gets a lot better. Bear in mind, guys, that per Ancient, you have a 0.5% chance to pull. Per Sacred, you have a 6%. You want to really be in that Mercy system. So you want to have done really at least 200 summons with an Ancient. With a Sacred, I mean, you need to be, I would say, probably like 15 or 20. Like, the increase per shard is so low. You want to be well into this before you're thinking about investing your stuff here. Especially since we just had a Summon Rush and a 2x Sacreds during a fusion. I think it's unlikely that many people have Sacreds. But we do have some exceptionally good champions here. So first of all, Kyoku is probably the best. Yeah, definitely the best of these regular legendaries, non-voids. Kyoku's really, really good. So we've got Kyoku, Tyrant, and Lugan. Let's actually show them in the index. So we've got Kyoku. Here's my Karato, by the way. Hey, you got him. Kyoku. So she's got incredible base stats. She's slow, but she's got good stats overall. So she has her A1. 3 hits if the target is under any debuffs. Each hit can place weaken, so really good source of weaken and good damage. Her A2 is an AoE attack that puts decreased attack. If they already have decreased attack, so if she does not put a decreased attack, i.e. they have it already, she does an AoE HP burn. Right, now this is a 4-turn cooldown, but she does have an extra turn built into her kit, so it's more like a 3-turn cooldown. So this is a really good move, right? AoE HP burn or AoE decrease attack on a 3-turn cooldown. Put her with someone that already decreases attack, and you've got a good combo. Then this move is insane. Again, 4-turn cooldown, but with that extra turn in there, so it's more like a 3-turn. Puts ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns and block damage on herself for 3 turns. So she does obviously automatically take this extra turn. So it's more like she has ally protection and block damage for 2 turns on everyone on a 3-turn cooldown, if you sort of bake in that extra turn mechanic, as it were. But yeah, this is an incredible move, right? Ally protection with block damage. That's so strong in the arena, in any progression content, in Hydra. Super, super good. And then Wellspring, her passive 4-turn cooldown when it's booked. Whenever she's hit with a critical hit, not every time, once per 4 turns when booked, when she's hit with a crit, heals all allies by 15% of their max HP and puts increased defense on all allies for 2 turns. So it's basically the Seeker passive, but better. It's a better version of Seeker passive. This is a great passive, right? Again, super good for arena, super good for any sort of progression content. That really ups the survivability of your team, helps them take a hit. Ally defense 30% in all battles. Kayuku is extremely good. I think she's extremely good. If you are into your mercy timers, I think it could be worth pulling for her. I think she could be worth pulling for, though your chances are very slim. It's up to you, but maybe it's worth rolling the dice there. Next up, we've got Tyrant Ixamor. So he's an old school champion. I think Tyrant's actually really good as well. I think he's very solid. So again, he's got very good base stats, really high HP and defense, good speed. So his A1 heals him by some of the damage inflicted. Heals him by a lot if they're under HP burn. So that's a nice A1. His A2 is an AoE attack, 3-turn cooldown, 100% chance to HP burn all enemies for 3 turns when it's fully booked up. So this is a phenomenal move. Obviously, this completely destroys the Spider Dungeon. This is phenomenal against the Hydra. This is really good for some Doom Tower waves, some floors, all that sort of stuff. So I think this is a great move. Then he has Infernal Minions, ally protection on everyone for 2 turns, increased defense on all allies for 2 turns, on a 3-turn cooldown. Again, another fantastic move. So yeah, this guy will really help you get through Doom Tower. He's going to really help your team stay alive, while he's also going to be AoE burning the entire enemy wave, which is really good in higher Doom Tower, where the enemies have very, very high HP pools. And then he's going to be healing himself to keep alive. Then he also decreases the damage inflicted by enemies under HP burn debuffs by 10% and an ally HP 25% aura in all battles. So I think Tyrant, although he's old school, I think he's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, traditional Demon Lord clan boss, if you got a non-unkillable team, this guy is insane. Hydra, I think this guy is super, super good as well. Doom Tower, I think he's absolutely worth it. Yeah, I think this guy's really good, so if you pulled him, you'd be happy. And then the final one we had is probably the weakest one. It's Lugan the Steadfast. I like this guy's skin. I think it's a pretty cool set of armor. I think he looks cool. Obviously, like the resolution is, it's not as good as more modern ones. But yeah, I don't know, more suiting for an epic these days. I think for a legendary, you want them to look more fantastical, even within the Banner Lords. But yeah, so he's got really good base stats as well. Crushing Blow attacks one enemy, heals all allies by 25% of damage inflicted, and puts a shield on himself, equal to 10% of his max HP for 2 turns. The damage is based on HP, and he has good base HP. Then his A2 Bodyguard, increased defense on himself and ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns, increased defense on him for 3 turns. That is a 4-turn cooldown, so I mean straight away you can see compared to those other 2 legendaries, which are giving you 2 turns of ally protection on a 3-turn cooldown effectively, his is on a 4-turn cooldown. I think they were also, Tyrant we just saw was giving increased defense and ally protection to everyone on a 3-turn cooldown. So this is quite a lot weaker than that. Now it's still a decent move, but it's not as amazing. Mark of Silence, though, I think is actually pretty good. Attacks all enemies. When booked, has a 100% chance of putting block active skill debuff for 2 turns. Now, unfortunately, the damage is based off of attack, so it's not going to do any damage. And yeah, then he's HP and faction crypt. So Lugan, I think he's interesting. So this is basically the same move that Karato has, except it's not going to do any damage, whereas Karato will hit pretty hard. To make this work, block active skills, that's somewhat a Doom Tower thing. Mostly I'd say probably an arena thing. So arena or Doom Tower, you'd need to build his accuracy high, which could be kind of difficult. He's going to be doing decent healing with his A1, especially with ally protect or counterattack. I think he's okay. I think he's an okay legendary. Now, I haven't played with him, so I haven't seen exactly how much healing he does. I think he does good healing, but nothing that's going to blow your mind. I think this is a really good move. And there is some good potential for that. So yeah, if I pull Lugan earlier in my account, I think that this is actually a champion no one talks about that you could get excited for. I think he could do a number of different things for you. I don't see him really much in the end game, though. I do think there's some potential. Like, if he cranked his accuracy up, I think there's potential for this to actually be pretty good. But obviously, for end game arena, you're talking 500, 600, 700 accuracy, at least. So that's a lot of accuracy to build into him. His other stats would suffer, but something to bear in mind. And then finally, the not guaranteed, the Void Legendary that you could potentially pull in this 10 times Void event is Krisk the Ageless. Now, Krisk is, I think he's the best champion by a good margin out of all the ones we've talked about today. I think Kaioku and Tyrant are also very, very good too, but Krisk is on like another level. He's one of the best Void Legendaries in the game. He is just insane. So, incredible base stats there. Super tanky. Slow, but he's super tanky. He has A1, AoE, 50% chance to put decreased speed. So that's super good. AoE decreased speed. His A2 is an AoE that puts ally protection on everyone. Except for him, puts 2 continuous heals on him for 1 turn, and increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. So he is doing ally protection, an AoE attack, healing himself so he stays alive through the damage he's going to absorb, and also doing buff extension. This is incredible. Then he has an AoE provoke with increased defense on himself and increased speed on his team for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. So it's increased speed on everyone but for him. He has a really cool passive as well. At the start of each round, shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 50% of his max HP. So it's an inbuilt shield set, but better. 75% chance, that goes up to 100% chance to put decreased defense and decreased attack on an attacker for 1 turn when they hit him. So yeah, Krisk, he's incredible, right? So he is in most of the top-end Hydra teams, because what does he bring for Hydra? He brings increased speed, he brings decreased speed, he brings AoE hits to proc War Master. He brings ally protection. He extends your buffs. He places decreased defense and decreased attack on his attacker. So the number of things that he does for your Hydra team is just completely insane. It's completely off the charts. Basically, you put Krisk in with a Duchess, and boom, you're done, right? You've beaten Hydra, basically. you barely need anything else. Like, just whatever, whip out some Royal Guards or Geomancers or whatever's. It doesn't super much matter. You've basically beaten it just by having these 2 champions in combo, because they do so much. So Krisk he's insanely good. He is insanely good. He's in a lot of the absolute top end clan boss teams as well, the Demon Lord teams, because of ally protection with increasing buff duration. He is the best buff extender in the game. Decreased speed, increased speed is useful for the Demon Lord clan boss. Decreased speed doesn't work. Just consistently putting out decreased defense and attack is just so good as well. The shield stuff is really good with buff extenders and Brogni. They can just boost the shield really high. There's all sorts of tricks you can do for the arena. He's not top tier for arena, right? Buff strippers punish him a little bit too hard, but for the arena, he is very good, for 99% of people that aren't pushing into like Platinum Arena or pushing into top-end Gold Tag Arena, whatever. Even in Tag Arena, he's very good when you choose your fights. He's just really strong, right? Huge shield on your team at the start of the fight. Every time you attack him, he debuffs you. Then he's ally protecting. He's provoking your team. He's decreasing speed. He's a brilliant champion for arena as well. He was like, when I started playing the game, he was like the best arena champion, I think, or one of the best. Not that case anymore. He's not in like the SS tier, but he's way up there as being really good. So Krisk is amazing. Let me be honest. If you are into your Void Mercy timers, right? If you are, if you have 200 Void pulls without a Void Legendary, I would pull for him. I would. If I was not in the Mercy timer, I would not pull for him. I just don't think it's worth it. Unless you're like a whale. If you're a big spender, then probably go for it. But if you're not a big spender, the next weekend is a 2x Voids, by the way. Next weekend is 2x Voids. Your chances of getting a Legendary are still so low. So it's only if you're a major spender, I would think about going for it. I really think for most players, you're much better off. Unfortunately, always pulling in 2 times Voids, because you just want as many chances to get Void Legendaries as you can, and that is your best chance to get Void Legendaries. That's just simply the way it works. Void Legendaries are game changers. You would like to empower them as well, so you just want to get as many as possible. It's just the way you want to do it, which means you're going in for a 2 times Void. So I would not be pulling here. So yeah, there you go, guys. Let me know what you think. Like I said, I feel like Thoresque here I feel like she's not probably worth it but I could be wrong. You might want to get her. I mean, 40 Ancients isn't that much. So if you want her, just in case, then go for it. I don't think she'll be that good. I think as soon as they add another champion with decreased resistance, that champion will probably outclass her. I mean, we'll see, but I just don't think she's probably that good. I expect probably a fusion legendary or more legendaries coming later in the year that will do what she does, but much better. Yeah, and then for these 10 times, the epics are actually pretty solid. They're pretty good. Broodlord's pretty bad, but these two I think are really good epics. She's a really good epic. The legendaries I think are all actually really solid. You know, there's no real surprise. You just had a huge 2x that drained resources, a huge fusion that drained our shard resources. It's not really surprising that we have some incredible champions here. Also, bear in mind there's almost definitely going to be a top tier legendary available during CVC as well. That's often what they do. So expect another 10 times event. CVC starts on Tuesday. Expect another one on that Tuesday. So, you know, you might want to save your sacreds for that either if you are near Mercy. I have no idea what that champion could be, but it could be a really good one. It could be really good. It might be worth pulling for that either. So there you go, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.